Welcome back to the Relationship Whisperer Show with Miss Dragonfly, where we discuss all things relationships with the aim to make marriage great again. Now, as usual with the shows, I will go through a celebrity. Usually, I try to. One that's currently in the news, and then I will be going on to discussing, of course, relationship issues, which is what the channel is all about. And, regarding which celebrity has been in the news, sometimes it's by good deeds and sometimes because of bad deeds, either being naughty or nice. But this particular one has been in the news for being naughty. And for all you listeners, have a guess. And if you can't guess, I'll let you know. It's Diddy. Or Sean Diddy Combs that's recently been arrested and for doing very naughty things. I'll go through what he is being in trouble for, and that's basically he's been arrested on charges relating to sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution charges. They are very serious charges, and it's looking bad for him. Apparently, it's so bad that, he has pleaded not guilty to the charges. And his side has actually volunteered to put up a $50 million bail. And that's been rejected. So that should tell you just how serious this situation is and how serious the authorities are finally taking account of this, of what he's done. Now, I say finally because apparently he's been going on for quite a while. Things that's done, like there's a video all the way from 2016 of him kicking and punching his ex-girlfriend there. And that video, 2016, and that should have basically had him arrested straight away, but for some reason he was able to get away with it, and that's pretty incredible. I mean, you would think even women's groups would be up in arms. There's this famous star that's beating up on a woman, and nothing's happened. So from that now, it seems to be finally things have finally turned the corner for him, albeit not to his advantage, to his disadvantage. But I'm glad that if these things are true and that he is guilty of, that he's finally brought to account for them. And it's actually quite a bit that he's actually done or been accused of doing, I would have to say. And I'm going to go through an article which actually states, list out what he's apparently been guilty of. All right. Now, reports about disgraced rapper. Apparently, Sean Diddy Combs has been a rapper. I would admit that I never really knew about him because I've never been into the rapping scene myself. So I wasn't actually aware of him, so to speak. But this music mogul has been indicted by a grand jury on sexual assault allegations, and it's pretty heavy stuff. There's been a focus on his infamous parties. I mean, apparently, he's got these white parties or freak-out parties, and freak-outs were elaborate and produced sex performances that he arranged, directed, and masturbated during and often electronically recorded. That's what the court papers alleged. Now, during a press conference, apparently, this U.S. attorney for Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, shed more light on these parties. And he said the freakouts sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ecstasy, etc., which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. That's what Williams claimed. And he used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freakouts as collateral against the victims. Okay, what happened at his freakout parties? A Department of Homeland Security agent who took part in the raid described his mansion as having 6 rooms and claimed that Diddy had lots of cameras in these rooms that were dedicated to sex. If you were in those sex parties, you were being recorded from every possible angle, including angles you wouldn't have known about, he said. He also was able to watch the action remotely on his phone, cast it onto a TV in another part of the house. He didn't have to be in the room when the sex was happening, although he frequently was. And he said, we have evidence that these women didn't feel like they were free to go. And there's video evidence that some of the girls were clearly out of it while these men were having sex with them. To me, that sounds like rape if you're not able to give consent. Now, this is a big question that's also come up. Which celebrities attended his parties? So there have been some extremely high-profile guests who have attended Sean Diddy Combs' infamous white parties in the Hamptons over the years, including Jennifer Lopez, Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, the Daily Mail reported that Tommy Lee, Pamela Anderson, Mariah Carey, Nick Cannon, Howard Stern, Aretha Franklin, Martha Stewart, Beyonce, and Jay-Z were also spotted attending these parties. And as per court documents, claimed that Combs has recordings of several celebrities, artists, music label executives, and athletes engaging in illegal activity. These individuals were recorded without their knowledge or consent. Now, a source close to Leonardo DiCaprio has claimed that he hasn't been in contact with Diddy for years and didn't attend those freakout parties. The insider said that Leonardo DiCaprio has absolutely nothing to do with any of this. He attended a few of his parties back in the early 2000s, but literally everyone did. They were not freak-offs. They were big house parties. Leo was at the start of his career at the time and has moved way past his partying. Look, Diddy's facing charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation again, and transportation to engage in prostitution, and is potentially facing a life sentence. So really, really heavy stuff. You know, and also apparently what I've heard, there were BDSM setups in rooms in his houses, more called like the dungeon, so to speak. And with these cameras, you can just imagine what's being captured on these cameras, on these recordings. Like the article said, he can use collateral against them. So just imagine all these celebrities doing the naughty and doing things that they would not want anyone else to know about, least of all the public if it gets out. So if he's got all these recordings of them doing that, imagine how much collateral and power he would have over these celebrities. How much blackmail potential would he have holding on to these recordings? You know, there's been lots of celebrities that's been connected with him in the past. There's lots of photos around with him with all these celebrities and so forth. Even I think there's a video with him with Kamala Harris attending something as well. And there's pictures with Oprah and so basically everyone. But now it seems like all these celebrities are distancing themselves from him or making light, playing it down, any photos I've taken with him and so forth, or even denying, okay, they were doing anything nefarious and so forth. So this is a big thing that's happened to him, and I thought I would have a look at his chart and see what's going on with that, see if we can make anything of it. Okay, Diddy is been on the news and for being a naughty boy. He's been arrested. So it's a case where, well, is Sean John Combs going to be facing his doom? So I think that's his actual full name. I mean, he's also known as Diddy, of course, or Puff Daddy, or P Diddy. I don't know. So he's a rapper, record producer, and record executive. His career started in 1990. So from 1990 to 1996, that's when he started his career. He became an intern at New York's Uptown Records. And during that time, like I was saying, looking at his chart, actually, he was born on the 4th of November, 1969. That's the birthday in Harlem. That's the birth details I could get for him. Unfortunately, though, I could not get his time of birth. And with certain people, with certain charts, we can still be able to read it without the time of birth. However, 25% of the information is still missing. And so because of that, sometimes you really need the time of birth. Otherwise, it can change the reading. Okay? And more like an incomplete reading. And so with these type of charts, it's very difficult. Now, from his birth details, his year pillar that we form is Yin Earth Rooster. His month is Yang Wood Dog, and his day is Yin Water Goat. So from that, you can say, there's no combinations on any of those, but looking at the elements alone, it looks like it's an Earth chart, which would be follow the power. However, like I said, we do not know what the fourth pillar is that would be generated from his time of birth. And it could change his entire chart. So he has no combinations from these three pillars. He might have with the fourth. The fourth might create a combination and change him into something. Or make him into something. But because we're not privy to his time of birth, we don't know what his fourth pillar, his hour pillar is. So it's very hard to do a reading on people like that, particularly having a look at his history. Like he looks all over the place, very complicated, kind of like with Julian Assange's chart, like I previously did a reading on Julian Assange. However, with Julian Assange, I would manage to get his time of birth as well. So it was very complicated. And this situation with Diddy a bit different in that because we don't know his hour and he's has a very complicated history. You cannot really do a reading on that without the time. Okay, because a reading could be completely wrong because, like I say, the time could change his chart to entirely something else. So I'll have a look back at his career now. I can't do a proper reading. I can't. It will not do it justice by just trying to guess, so to speak. Do something based on just the three pillars because his history is so everywhere, and without the hour pillar, it's very difficult and it may not be correct either. So that's the thing. So let's have a look back at what he's done. Okay, his career really started between 1990 to 1996. He got his start, and during that period, he was in the Monkey Luck Cycle. So, and with his rooster, I guess he got some combination being metal there. But I can't say it's definite as because we don't know what his hour pillar is. So in 1990, he became an intern at New York's Uptown Records. Then the next year, 1991, the GOAT year, he promoted an AIDS fundraiser event, and that was oversold. And apparently, because of that, there was a big stampede and 9 people actually died. I don't know why he did not get charged for that. I mean, at the least, it would have been negligence, but he didn't. So he got away with that. Then in 1993, after being fired from Uptown Records, he established his own label called Bad Boy Records. And he signed lots of acts to Bad Boy. Then in 1996 to 98, he was still in the Monkey Luck cycle. He had released his debut album, No Way Out, and that turned out to be a big success. Then from 1999 to 2000, he went into the yin metal luck cycle. And so if he was metal, if nothing else is the same, it would have been resources. But again, like I say, we don't know what his hour pillar is because we do not know what his time of birth is. Then he released his second solo album called Forever. And that did well, but it did not have as big a success as No Way Out. Then in 2001 to 2004, that was during the GOAT luck cycle. That was Earth. Again, the Earth is the same as his as the pillar on his day. And then he started becoming an actor and appearing in movies. And he was in the movie Made. And then he became a producer of TV show, Making the Band on MTV. And that, I think, aired from 2002 to 2009. Now, from 2005 to 2009, he was still in the GOAT. And he starred in films and Broadways and TV. And in 2010 to 2013, he went into the young metal luck cycle. Okay, whether that wasn't quite enough, whether or not that's enough to change his chart, we don't know. Again, it was dependent on his hour pillar, which we don't know. And he released Dirty Money and was still continuing acting and had roles in TV and movies. Then in 2014 to 2017, he went into the horse luck cycle. So that combined with his dog on his month to produce fire. So he finally got a combination. The dog and the horse together makes fire. And so we can say then that he became power. During that time, he released Money Making Mitch album, and it was the anniversaries of Bad Boys. So lots of events going on there. And I think he's just been continuing since then, either music, TV, movies, acting, and so forth. He looks like he's very, has a broad range of skills, very broad, and he's had his hand in every pie there is, it seems to be, in entertainment. He's been everywhere. So with someone like this, it's very difficult to do a reading on them, especially if you do not have the full chart, which unfortunately we do not. We only have 3 out of 4 pillars, and that makes it very, very difficult. So people like this is the case where we cannot really do a reading without knowing, like I say, knowing the full chart details, especially if they've been everywhere. I mean, if their life was a lot simpler, then we'll be able to zero in on these events, and these events. And from that, we'll probably be able to guess what the 4th pillar is and be able to work with that. Though with Diddy, even though I will be unable to tell whether or not he is going to be going to jail or going to be a free bird, because we're missing the 4th. So we can't say it definitively, but his chart can tell us some characteristics of him. And particularly, look, his outer side, he presents one image, like, his fans would know. And that's the public image that everyone knows about. And it's been okay. I mean, he's done so many naughty things and have gotten away with it. And so I guess, in a sense, people have, let's say, gloss over. And also, I guess, a bit of like when people have a hero worship, they don't want to hear anything bad about that person, or they make excuses for that person when they've been naughty, so to speak. I guess, case in point, let's say like Bill Clinton, when he was exposed for lying about his affair with Monica Lewinsky. Yeah, I mean, if you ask the feminists, well, what about him? What about Bill Clinton? They say, oh, that was okay. They were saying they don't want to discuss about what Bill did. Remember that famous line he did? I never had sexual relations with that woman, with Miss Lewinsky. Then later on, with DNA evidence, found that there was regarding that infamous blue dress, and it was confirmed apparently back then. If people remember that. But, asking where women now, they think bad about him, or where he's a sexual predator or anything like that. And especially if you ask feminists now, they defend him. Okay, they don't see anything, they don't pick on them. So I guess it's also, similar with Diddy. I guess his fans will only see the good. He can do no wrong, so to speak. But if he has been naughty, he's just been naughty. If he's done nefarious things like kicking his girlfriend, beating up his girlfriend, kicking his girlfriend then, and it was on videotape as well. Then nothing happened to him. So there is a persona, an image that he has, and he presents to the world as this really talented rapper, which he is, to be honest, with his talents. However, it's other things. What's behind it is naughty stuff. I mean, with the nature of his chart, things that he's been hidden behind, nefarious, behind his charts, doing nefarious things, which has come out that he has been doing nefarious things. Naughty things. When you say it, kind of like the reading that I did on Jay-Z. I'm not saying that Jay-Z we did the same thing as he's being accused of, but from Jay-Z's reading that I did previously, he has another side, and he is involved in almost like gangster stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about, and we're not privy to unless someone blows the whistle on him. Diddy's case, it seems like someone has finally blown the whistle on him, and it's come to light, all these really bad things. So your public image and your public persona of what you present on us outside can only last so far until something breaches. And something finally breaches, which something has, and it's come up and blown up, so to speak. And normally we would be able to pick that up on a full reading as well. And so it's finally blown up now in September 2024. So it's on a rooster month in a dragon year. And he does have a rooster on his out on his year pillar. So that's his outside. So it fits in with the month. Now, the dragon is almost like a karmic thing. So this is a year when people that have been naughty get called to account. Okay, the dragon year, it's more like a karmic thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing about more things that people that are famous people that we know, celebrities or politicians or so forth, finally coming out this year. That get their happens, so to speak. They're just desserts, or they're called into account for it, such as the case with Diddy. So it is a year of people being called into account. Though, of course, this is the case, one of those cases that if you don't know the day, you don't know the time, it's extremely difficult to do a full reading. And this is the thing, when people come to for a reading, they should have their date of birth with them. And this is the thing, not everyone knows what their hour pillar is, and that becomes very difficult. Now, there is a technique, a traditional technique, that people can read and tell what your time of birth is by the position of the spiral on your head, your hair spiral, which I believe it's called a crown. And they'll be able to tell what time you were born from that. And a bit difficult when we get people that are bold to work out where the position of that is. But that is an old technique. Not everyone knows about it. And it's not really been handed down much because to me, it's probably gone the way of the old ones. And the old ones there are things that they like to keep for themselves and not teach it out. And this is usually one of those. And being one of the younger readers, unfortunately, I haven't been able to convince a reader to pass that on to me. So I haven't been able to have a chance to learn that. So I can only go on what people tell me, what their time of birth is, and possibly guess if what's happened in the past with them is clear-cut enough that you can possibly do it. Okay, so for people, look, if you're coming for a reading, try as best as you can to get your time of birth. So if you cannot find your date of birth in any documents anywhere, I think once upon a time they did record the time of birth. If you've watched movies where the doctor, you're in the delivery there, you can see a delivery room and the doctor's pulling the baby out. And once it comes out, and they'll weigh the baby and they'll go, nurse, record the time. What time is it? Then they record the time of birth. And I think in some birth certificates, they may put it on the time of birth, but especially birth records, that they'll have that. And to parents, if you've just given birth, your child is young, and particularly you've still got the birth records, please go back and check what time it is, because that is important to your child. You never know how important it could be. You could need an astrology reading for your child, or later on they'll come back and ask you because they need the time. And so that is very important. So for those people that cannot find it anywhere, ask your parents what time you were born. If they're no longer with you or they themselves can't remember, I find it hard for a woman not to remember the most painful experience of her life. What time was she actually relieved of all that pain? But anyway, if she can't remember or she's not available to tell you, then you can try your luck by asking your aunt or uncle what time it was that their sister gave birth, what time it was that they got the call and told them they're an uncle or an auntie. And they might have had a conversation with your mother then as to what time she finally gave birth. So there are avenues that you can check if you don't know yourself and you cannot ask your parents. But yeah, in these sorts of cases, like I reiterate, I can do the best you can, but sometimes, like I say, it may not be accurate because of that missing information. And I know of readers themselves that would actually refuse to do a reading without the time of birth because they feel like it may not be accurate and then they cannot do the reading any justice. Okay? So bear that in mind. So unfortunately, because of the way Diddy's charts is and his events, he's everywhere and we don't have the time of birth, I am unable to, and I don't feel confidence in making a call as to whether or not the mud is going to stick with him this time and he's off to jail for the rest of his life, which, looking at the type of charges that he's up against, it's what he would deserve if he's guilty of that. Or sure he would manage to get away with. For some reason, all the evidence that the prosecution brings up doesn't stick, and he's able to be found not guilty by a jury as he's pleaded not guilty. Okay? Like, it's just a matter of, it's also like, I don't know, once upon a time you had, I think, what's his name? O.J. Simpson, that had this evidence, but he was still acquitted. And then later on, it seemed like he was guilty of that. And because he wrote a book and said, "What if I did it?" And to people that was basically an admission that he did do it. But anyway, I would have loved to be able to see and check whether or not he is going to get away with it, or this is going to be the end of it, end of him. But with an incomplete chart and the way his career has been, it's what is saying, or basically impossible to know with confidence either way. Okay, so I'll just leave you the reading with him as it is. He's been naughty, not nice. So it seems. And this is like a classic chart where you actually need the time of birth for the reading. And if I guess if it was him coming to me for a reading, I probably wouldn't do the reading because of that. Trying to attempt with that information more than likely would not be correct in your reading. So then it comes to the point that there's no point in going ahead. All right. So that's Sean Diddy Combs matter. And now, making marriage great, you have to start with a marriage. And to start a marriage, you have to date. You have to do the dating and the relationships. And before the dating, you have to do partner selection and be attracted to people, to your prospect and to partners, to people, to have that spark and go dating and form the relationship that would hopefully lead to marriage if you are serious and looking for something long term. But what is it that people look for? Okay. Now, it is commonly said that 90% of women want the 10% of men, the top 10% of men. And if you're going to do the maths, that's actually impossible to match up 90% of women with only 10% of the male population. And why is that the case? Why only 10% of men? Well, 10% of the men is because women have set certain criteria in their mind that they think that is all that they'll be attracted to, that's all that would be suitable for them, and that's all that they want. And what do they commonly want that only 10% of men would have? And that is, I'll go through the list. General list is good looking, tall, have a six-pack, make lots of money, be dynamic, caring, and again, a sense of humor. Now, if you were to look around at the people that you know, how many people that you know, how many men that you know would have all that, all those qualities? I was saying, first off, you'll be lucky if you know of one, even. Okay, that's how rare these men with all these qualities are. Okay, if they have, might have one or two, but they don't have the other. Someone very good looking might be arrogant and have a bad, not be caring, which isn't good for a relationship anyway. But what if someone's extremely caring and nice, but it just happens to be ugly, not have the looks? Then they'll still be discounted. So it seems that women want to have it all. And I guess I don't blame just women. I guess everyone wants to have it all as well. But why those particular qualities that women want? Now, the good-looking bit and the six-pack is kind of like, well, it's the aesthetics, first of all. And that's in human nature. Like, we all want pretty looking things. We all want to be around nice thing and good looking people. I mean, like, look, even when you go and do window shopping, if something looks good, or yeah, it just catches your eyes. Just something just on display there. It's just so nice and enticing. And it just catches your eye. Or you walk past a pet store and there's a pretty, really cute little puppy just jumping up at you. And you'd be attracted to that, and you might buy just because you think it looks so cute without really thinking about if it's suitable for you or you have the time for the puppy. But okay, so what about the other qualities? Tall and make lots of money. Now, whether or not women want to admit it, women want to be looked after. Okay, they want to be looked after, and so instinct. Even if you go back to caveman times, they want to be protected and feel protected. Okay, forget about political correctness. Otherwise we cannot talk about the truth and say things as it is. So, and if we are not able to, then we would not be able to help people and giving them right advice and deal with the real issues, which this is one of them. Women want to be looked after. Specifically, women want to feel protected. And I guess with the tall men, it's the physical aspect of it. They physically feel protected rather than a short man. Then they think, oh, how is he going to protect me if something happens physically? Be able to fight off say like a robber or something. Okay. And I guess with the wealthy, look, what does wealth represent? Wealth represents resources or the ability to acquire resources. Wealth is able to provide you with a comfortable life, not having to lack things. Like it will be able to, if you have money, you can get shelter, you can get a house. More money you have, the more comfortable house, the larger, the more comfortable house that you can get. And be able to furnish it with very nice things. It able to eat good food, better quality food. You're able to go on trips whenever you feel like it. Or you have had this car, or you want to do learn this, have piano lessons, yeah, and pay for that, and also be able to pay for hired help, which means you don't have to do all the housework. You can get a housekeeper or cleaner to come in, or even a cook, depends on how much wealth, and so you don't have to do that, and it makes your life easier. And that's what we all want. You cannot, in the end, you can't blame people for wanting an easy life. We all do. We want a comfortable, easy life. And I guess money is the way and a means to get that. And so I know people disparage other people are being just after money, or so to speak, or just interested in money. But if you really come down to the bolts of it, and to human nature, you can't blame people, but as long as people, on the other flip of the coin, if they want the wealth, yeah, sure enough, but you also have to be able to give something back in return. And so that really means something. You can ask for all this. You can demand all this that you want your partner to have. But really think about it, though. Why would someone like that want you? Why would a man, good looking, tall, have a six-pack, makes lots of money, but be dynamic, caring, with a sense of humor, want you? Someone like that would be hot property, would be in high demand. Okay? So why would you stand out from all the rest? That they'll pick you out of the 90% of women that want them. You have to think, what do you have to offer? What do you bring to the table? And because they're wealthy, they're men, you don't necessarily have to be wealthy. So you don't have to prove they're saying, oh, You are a strong, independent woman. You've only, you have your career. You've got money in the bank. You earn this much in a year. Then it doesn't matter to them. What would they want into it? What can you bring to them that would bring value to their lives? Okay, obviously it's not money because they already got it. And if they're depending on how wealthy they are, the wealthier they are, the easier their life would be, obviously, because they're able to hire people to do things for them. A PA, a cook, a house cleaner, a housekeeper, groundsman, do the garden. So what can you provide them? Okay. So, and for that, I guess normally you have a look at the wealthy people. What do the people that they choose? Just have a think of it. If you are asking and you expect someone to be of this high standard, then you also have to be of a high standard, albeit be providing something else. All this true. When we got to money, I know women are not going to admit it in this day and age of feminism and progressiveness, but really instinct overrides ideology. Really, if it comes to choice between the alpha male and the beta male, women are going to choose the alpha male. Okay. Someone who can go out and change a car tire, handyman, do this and that, handy around the house, and so forth, as opposed to a man that's in touch with his feelings and so forth, doesn't have an ambition, just thinks about caring or maybe good with animals, and so to speak, to a woman and her instinct, which is going to be more appealing to her. Okay. I mean, there's lots of what are called former feminists on social media now, and they admit that they're wrong and want a man. Either they were feminists and now went with actually a conservative man, or a man that it would be the antithesis of what they were always espousing about toxic masculinity. Men are basically, a tradesman, drinks beer, has barbecues, and might go out hunting, out shooting, hunting, and that sort of thing. And what do progressives say? That's toxic masculinity. But there are women now that end up with that. They show, they finally admitted to themselves that they've been parroting what progressives and what feminism and feminists want, and they realize that's not them. That's not what they really believe in. Or there are other feminists that now they admit that they're wrong. That finally, after doing all that, no, I'm tired. I want a man. I actually want to be looked after for once. I want a man. I want someone to look after me now. I'm tired of going on doing it on my own. And it's not surprising because, look, as I was saying, I don't do political correctness or progressiveness because under the umbrella of progressiveness, so to speak, because that serves no purpose. Then I'll be saying untruths and I cannot help. I would not be able to give true and proper advice that would be able to help people. So my show is putting political correctness aside, and we have to say things as it is. And that is women's role in history has been as a support person. Okay, that's why, even in caveman times, we were not really the hunter. We were there doing the skinning and the preserving. That was also a very important role. But because you need both, you need the hunter and you needed someone to do that. And because women were not out there, they didn't need to go out hunting, we did not need to have all that physical strength and stamina to be doing hunting as opposed to skinning and preserving. You don't need as much strength to do that. And that's fine. We have other skills. We have complementary skills. I mean, just like if you're right-handed, your right hand is your dominant hand. First thing you do, pick up a cup. You pick it up with your right hand. You don't pick up with your left hand. You go about and do things. If anything that just needs one hand to do, you use your right hand. However, anything more, then you use your left hand. And your left hand is not as strong as your right hand. Okay, it's the support hand. But it's not to say it's not important, because anyone that's lost their left hand would really miss it. Imagine even just going a day with your left hand tied behind your back, you are going to really feel it missing. And then you realize how important that it is. And so women are just as important as men, but we're not the same. And it's a great thing that we're not the same, because we bring other skills. We are complementary, not to be the same. The same is not good. You don't need two right hands. You need a right hand and a left hand. And so it's this aspect, and that's why women trying to be just going out alone on their own and trying to be the dominant partner, after a while they get very tired, very mentally exhausting, physically and also mentally, because that's not the role that we are naturally designed for. There's this big thing that they put out about women being leaders, and so forth, pushing women into leadership roles, and they're disparaging that not many women are getting there. Oh, it's because of the system. But if you really think about it, women do not want to be in that position of leadership. Why? Because firstly, what you need to do to get there, you have to do those long hours to be able to prove yourself, to progress in your career, to justify, I guess, yourself getting those promotions and doing the tough. And it's mentally very tough. Women do not have the physical stamina. And when they do reach the CEO board, they find it's very tiring for them. So a lot of them do not want to go take that route, because women have different priorities, and it's fine. Why do we need to be the same? We don't have to be the same to prove our worth. Okay? And so this goes back down to, yes, women want to look for, I say generally, women want to look for a provider and a protector. And that's absolutely fine, because they bring other things. There was one woman I remember on, I think it might have been TikTok, and she says, like, her husband buys the house, she turns it into a home. Okay. He might brings in the money to buy the food, buys the food, she turns it into a meal with their family. And that's the attitude that they have. I mean, complementary skills. So she then acknowledges and says that, yes, she's not the main breadwinner of the person out there, but she is actually a partner in that marriage, and she provides the complementary skills and does the complementary work. So it's all fine. Women should not fear of admitting that they want a provider and a protector, and they should not be ridiculed for wanting that as well, or belittled for wanting to be a stay-at-home mum. Okay, because there's nothing wrong with being one side of it, not trying to be the other side of it. Nothing wrong with women wanting to be women and men wanting to be men, and not expect men to be in touch with the feminine side and pushing women to be a leader and so forth. It's a yin and a yang. It's complementary. Yeah, and that aside, yes, ladies, if you want a high value men, as the top 10% of men are, think about what you have to offer. What do you bring to the table? What can you make someone's life easier? Okay, someone with money and so forth would make your life easier because of the resources that they bring. If you do not have resources, or it wouldn't be relevant, what do you bring? What would you bring to make that person's life easier? Okay. Now, criteria that women and even men placed on their prospective partner. Everyone wants the cream of the crop, and so obviously not everyone's going to get it. And if you're not, well, firstly, if you want it, you have to be able to justify why you deserve that and because why would someone like that want you, a high value person? Now, I say both men and women are after the 10% of the other sex, because men also want the same thing as well. But with men's criteria, it's a bit different. When in their mind, when it's high value, they're after a high value woman. Their skews more towards looks and youth rather than money. I mean, you don't often have an average earning guy or a guy earning an average salary saying they're after a rich woman as their partner. Look, some might, just because they want the easy life, I guess, mostly beta men. And if they're willing to admit it, because there is still a very big social stigma with, say, a rich woman hooking up with a poorer man. Okay, and mostly they see that as being almost saying left-handers in a world full of right-handers, so to speak. I mean, and not many women that are rich are willing to hook up with a poorer man. It's definitely the case that women marry across and up, and men marry across and down the social sphere. Okay, women want a man not to have to depend on her, for her not to have to be the provider. And so if it's someone that is actually poorer, then that's going to drag on her, so to speak. It means that she would have to drag the other person up and be providing for the other person more, whether or not voluntarily or involuntary, just because that she's earning more. So obviously more of the things would have to be paid by her. Okay, so a woman obviously would want a man that would be earning more than her, or have at least as high education level. If they don't have as high education level, and because not all billionaires have PhDs, I think very few billionaires actually have very high levels of education. But it doesn't mean but they were still able to become billionaires. And I don't think any woman would reject a man that's a billionaire but doesn't have a degree. Okay, so in the end, some things still override, but then those sorts of men would still be seen as high value men. And apparently, I think it might have been Richard Branson that was dyslexic. And but hey, it didn't, and he cannot even read his own company accounts. He has to rely on others. But hey, it did not prevent him from becoming ultra wealthy. And because he's still highly desirable and seen as a high value man. And so this is the thing. But men tend to, yes, marry across and down. So anyone on their level, whether it be in terms of looks, well, I wouldn't say pretty much looks, but in terms of education level, income level, or lower. Though if a woman, I guess, is at about the same level, education-wise, then looks don't matter as much. She has to actually be at least decent looking. I mean, this is the thing, men are more visual in nature. Okay, they're more visual in nature, and they're attracted to the youth, obviously, because it goes back to instincts. They're more fertile. A lot of psychiatrists and psychologists would basically all of them say the exact same thing. Is because it represents fertility. And I guess, yeah, men are very visual orientated. So if the woman is poorer, then I guess he would expect her to be good looking, or to have something, an X factor, so to speak. that would set her apart from all the other women if it is not looks. Because it's not about money then. Yeah, it's got to be something else. Now, there are also men that actually go to pretty extreme. And I actually came across an article where a man refuses, well, he says he refuses to date ugly women. So I'll go through that article now. Okay, and the article is from a man called Kevin, 42, and he's shaved off his head, or maybe he didn't have much hair, and they're saying, well, like most men say, you just take it off, the whole off. And the headline is, I refuse to date ugly women. I might be single forever, but I won't lower my standards. And he says his ideal woman is attractive and busty with long hair. He doesn't like it being put up. Form an orderly queue, please, ladies. Okay, now he's a single dad and he believes he could be on his own forever because he refuses to date ugly women. He openly admits, though, he has pretty high standards, which he refuses to drop in his bid to find love. So his main criteria for love then is just looks. He's adamant that he will only be able to fall for the right person who ticks all the boxes for him. From what it sounds like, it sounds like he's only got one box, and that's looks so far. And he's vowed never to make concessions or settle for the sake of settling down. He's a machinist from the UK and basically said he's not into ugly women. I'm not saying I'm Brad Pitt, but I know I can pull reasonable women. It does make it harder to find someone if you're only going for the high-end appearance. Your work is going to be a lot harder, and loads of other men are probably going to be after them. But I'm just not willing to settle for second best. I realize I could be on my own for a long time. He's posted on TikTok and saying that he's been in a long-term relationship and stayed with a partner, but he's been single on and off for the past 3 years. He dated someone he met on TikTok at the end of last year, but he said that fizzled out just after a month. He quit drinking years ago, so can no longer rely on meeting people in pubs. He's used dating apps, but is not impressed. He's had some success on Plenty of Fish, but Tinder was a flop. He said a lot of women just don't get back to you. The majority never message you. If you do get a message from a girl, I can guarantee you she would be someone that's not that good looking. If that's the case, wouldn't that be a hint to you that you're probably not attractive to attractive women? Hey? Okay, he's continuing. He said, I've lowered my standards before and I never enjoyed it. I'll not be doing that again. So his ideal woman is attractive and busty with long hair. And he holds out hope one day of tracking down the perfect partner. He said, finding the right person in life is a real thing. I've never met that person. I hope I do. But he also admitted that he's happy to remain a lonely man for as long as it takes for that person to walk through the door. Sounds like it's going to be a long wait, buddy. He added, people always ask me why I'm single. I could have a girlfriend. I'm decent looking. I make decent money. But lots of men are single because they want to be and refuse to settle. It's a lifestyle choice. Like, come on, Kevin. Why would such a woman hook up with you? And especially if you're on a dating app, a beautiful woman, why would she pick your profile? You know, have a good think about it. And you know what? I'll read some of the comments that people have posted in response to this article. And one comment said, being fussy with a head like that, he's destined to be single for life. Another said, should I tell him or will you? Get yourself some glasses, mate, and then look in the mirror. And Matt said, he said he wants someone who is attractive. I would rather someone who is upright, decent, caring, honest, trustworthy, faithful, and he has tattoos near his neck. Good night. Wow. Just wow. So Matt sounds like he's got his head screwed on, yeah? Because, look, if you want someone for the long term, you have to think about their qualities rather than looks. I've said this before in my previous shows. Looks do not last. Okay, they're there for the moment, but people will age and looks will fade. And then what? You're going to dump that person and then try to find the next pretty young thing and pee on a coaster? And when you're with them, with the looks, you get nothing else if that's all you're going to choose based on. That's all you're going to pick on. Whereas something else, if they've got other qualities that would bring value to your life, being caring, honest, look after you if you're ill, that sort of thing, that is worth gold with a decent person. And that's what would last in the long term. And that's what you can build a long-term relationship with. It's just like, remember, just think if you were attracted to a house, you're inspecting a house, it has great views. And so you buy the house for the great views. After a while, you see it every day, you're going to get sick of it. And it becomes, well, I wouldn't say get sick of it, it becomes passé. And then you find like the house, the location, while I've got good views, it's very inconvenient location and I've got to drive an hour and a half to work, so to speak. And then I can't really, it's got no parking spot. I can't really park my car. I have to park it on the street. And if I had your car scratched and so forth. Or ends up being the bedrooms are actually a little small. I mean, I need a bigger place. And so without considering that one good thing that attracted you to it in the first place, the great views of that property, becomes not so great in the end when you look at the entire package and not just the views. So the views on the house is just like the views on a partner. Yeah, their appearance, great, but you don't consider everything else. And you can look at your partner every day, the great looks. After a while, it's just, well, that wow factor is gone. You're so used to it. And then what? You break up because there's nothing else. Okay. And then, all right, following on, a couple more comments. Crooked teeth, baggy eyes, deep wrinkles for 42, mate. You ain't even cute. And I like blonde guys with blue eyes to begin with. And another, this person may have their standards for physical attractiveness for their partner, but I can't help wonder what he will do when the goddess's breasts sag and the hair thins and greys with age. Will they be traded in for a younger version, even as the ravages of time will affect the standard bearer? Looks like they are headed for a lonely future, basing their standards solely on physical appearance. Physical qualities may form the basis of attraction in the beginning, but are not the foundation of a long-term relationship, as this person had already begun to discover. So that comment is basically what I've just said. So agreed with me. And in response to that, someone's posted, if he starts off 15 years younger, that should help. Then there's hair dye and surgery. Okay, so that's him. Another comment, a last comment I'm going to read out. Does this bloke realize he ain't no Fabio? And if anyone can remember, Fabio was a male model in the late 80s, early 90s. Okay, he was basically a supermodel, and he was a model for on the cover of so many romance novels because he had the stature. being very tall. I don't know what his exact height was. I think it might have been 6'5" or something, with very good looking and a very chiseled body. So that's why he was picked and to be on the cover of so many romance novels. So if you don't, I guess what that comment's saying, if you don't look like Fabio, then you cannot expect a partner to be as well. Someone to be attracted to you for looks, that you're looking for just based on looks alone, especially if you're doing online dating, and especially apps like Tinder, which is almost solely based on just looks. I mean, I've never been on it, but what I've heard is basically you look at the profile and you swipe right or left to accept or not based on looks. And that, like as I say, does not form the basis of a relationship. Look, fine if you're just after something casual. As I mentioned before, if you're just after something casual, not for the long term, just for the moment, all you're going to need is someone good looking and fun. That's it. Do not overthink it. That's all you need. But if you want a relationship, then it's got to be a lot more than just looks. And looks might even come second. Because once you love someone, there's someone with great qualities and that, you don't even think of their looks, and you might even think they're beautiful to you. I mean, just have a look. You can see some really ugly dogs out there being walked by owners. And you think, well, that is such an ugly dog. Why would anyone love that dog? But that dog is so much loved by its owner, and you can see the interaction with its owner. And anyone that has a dog with a face that only a mother can love, the world would not, but saying you're the dog's mother, you love it still. Because of its all these other qualities of the dog, then it becomes beautiful to you. Just as, if a partner has all these other qualities, then it's and not conventional, without conventional looks, that person would still be absolutely gorgeous to you. And it does not matter what the world says. Okay? Now we're coming towards the end of the show. I would have, it's gone through a celebrity, Diddy, Sean Diddy Combs. He's been in the news lately for being naughty rather than nice. If he's done all this, if all these allegations and what he's been charged with is true, he's been an extremely naughty boy. The charges are saying, prostitution, trafficking, kidnapping, I think as well, and lots of very bad things, and so bad, I guess, that even his defense volunteered to post $50 million bail was refused. So, well, either they considered him a flight risk, or that the charges were, and what he's done is just so serious that they just can't let him out. And whether or not he's going to stay there for the rest of his life, or for a significant amount of time, or whether or not he is going to walk free is another matter. Whether or not he's got enough strings to pull to get himself in the get out of jail free card. But what it sounded like, that he can't do that anymore if he has done it, because look, he's been done certain things in the past that he's gotten away with it, like beating up and kicking his girlfriend, and it was on video as well, but it was never charged. So obviously he managed to pull some strings to that, but it's a case where I think it's like an Epstein that finally catches up with him. And so now the problem is for all these celebrities that have attended his parties and probably also been on videotape doing things that they would rather people not know about. So whether or not the authorities have gotten a hold of all those videos, or Diddy might still hold on to them, and as what we've heard, that he's used them for collateral in the past. and whether or not he can do it again, or maybe the authorities might use this collateral over all the celebrities that's been caught in there. So, and whether or not those will be released is a different matter. It comes down to journalists. Once upon a time, journalists were investigative. That was their job, to go seek out the truth, present it to the people as it is, and it was up to the people to make a decision on that. However, now it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. They just go along the line with what they've been told they can say. I guess it's just like the incidents with Epstein. Before, he was guilty of so many different things, and he got so many different clients. Apparently, he had a little black book of all his clients. But no one has asked, or no journalist in particular has inquired and want to know who was on the list of his clients. Wouldn't that be a matter of public interest to know who was guilty, okay, or who was involved, so to speak? Why aren't there any journalists even asking the question or bringing up the matter of, well, who was his clients? Let's have a look at the list. And so it remains to be seen whether or not journalists are going to call out and want to know who has been on these videotapes. And all these celebrities now, okay, too, let's see what how they're going to act. Are they going to be very quiet, or are they going to start supporting this person or that person because they have to, because they are being blackmailed? Otherwise, these videos of you doing these naughty things are going to be released, or be known that they will. Now, it comes up to another question of whether or not he's going to be like Epstein and die in jail again. Will he commit suicide, so to speak, like Epstein did the first time or the other time? So there are parallels between him and Epstein. So we'll see whether or not he does get to trial. Okay, he doesn't die before he gets to trial. Or when he does get to trial, would he be found guilty, and what his sentence would be if he is found guilty, and what he will be found guilty of? How many of those charges are they going to stick, or if they are going to do some sort of deal behind the scenes? Okay. And the other thing I went over is regarding people and their expectations of what their partner should be, their future partner, and what they're looking for. Because by and large, if 90% of people are after 10% of the other population, especially women, it's said that 90% of women want 10% of men. And that's impossible, because that they're not all going to get it. Only 10% of women are going to get 10% of men, the top 10% of men. And those 10% of women would definitely have to have something to offer if you want a high-value man. And you can see this clearly playing out in China right now. You might have heard of the term leftover women. In China, it's a term coined for women that are essentially over 30 and they're deemed as being too old, so to speak, which by and large, it seems like that is going a bit overboard in terms of Western society. Does not seeing women as being harder to date until they go, over 35. Then the age starts come into play. But in China, it's really magnified to the point where, women in their 30s, even at 30 years old, they might have degrees, have a high-paying job, a good, well-paying job, own a home, a car, and they still cannot get dates. But what they are after, and women in the 30s, then those women have said, I won't settle I'd rather be single unless I get this. This is what I want. And they list their requirements. It's got to earn so much a month, because they go by monthly. I think maybe, I don't know, 50,000 yuan a month or whatever, hundreds of thousands of yuan a month. They've got to have a home, a car in the city. be over a certain height and be good looking and be caring and of this certain age and be young. And they usually only want someone a few years older. But by and large, then what happens is they just wait and wait, because the men that do fit that criteria, hey, they don't need you really, because then what they're looking for, they don't need someone that's has a decent salary, because they earn a lot more. And they don't especially need someone highly educated either to go and be able to earn that money, because they're able to earn that money. And what they're all looking for is youth in that market. So granted, China is a different market than in the Western countries, but it's just like what women in the West, but on steroids, so to speak. So those women keep holding on to their standards. They're not willing to lower it, or even when they start lowering a bit their criteria and saying, look, it doesn't have to lower their either education level that they expect or their salary they expect. I had one woman that says, okay, he has to earn such much, I'll compromise so much a month, not that much older. Okay, he still has to have a property in the city, he has to give me all the money I get a month. Okay, I'll accept him if he has a child, but it has to be a girl only, and he doesn't live with us. And living with us, I have to have my mum and my sister live with us as well, and so forth. And is that too much to ask? And I was watching that and thinking, hey, sweetheart, have you listened to yourself? If you were him, would that sound desirable to you? I'm saying, no. And over there in China, there's also a lot of leftover men. It's mostly men in rural areas. They cannot find women because, well, women want an easier life and want someone with money, because most of the females in the rural areas have gone off to the city to look for better prospects, so to speak. Okay, they don't want to be tied into the rural life, especially since it's going to be a low income. It's a difficult life. So you can see it clearly there, especially to the naked eye. Though in the West, it's not as obvious. It's more subtle, but those themes are still there. People's desires are still there. Because in China, the men, they just wanted someone young, had to be under 30. And once they get past 25, it starts being sort of an market, so to speak. And so the advice there in China, especially from matchmakers and agencies, they say, sweetheart, you're young. You have to marry when you're young. You have to start looking when you're in your 20s. And some agencies even refuse to take on women that are over 38. And then they're listening to women in their 30s and listening off their criteria, and they say, sweetheart, honey, sorry, I cannot help you with that criteria. You're going to have to compromise. So, and then there's cases where, okay, the man earns this, but however, he's divorced with a child. And so that's a black mark against him. And so, okay, someone with better conditions, okay, he's only 34, he's earning this much, and they're saying he has property and so forth. But he's only a meter 68 tall. And then that's not accepted either. Yeah, their height, they want over a certain height as well. And it's not just the tall women, it's short women as well. What are shorter women? They say, I want a man over a meter 75. No compromise, and so to speak. And then that becomes difficult. So they're having a major problem over in China at the moment. And expectations are not meeting reality, and those twains not meet. So you're having a lot of leftover women because they're older, and a lot of leftover men because they are poorer, so to speak. And it's not as obvious in the West. It's more subtle, and you can see it. And women over it's certain age, I guess, in the West, things are a bit more flexible. as long as the women are more flexible with their criteria. And even if, with the men, look, if you're not a multimillionaire, okay, or you don't have a high paying job, then you have to be more flexible as well in terms of the partner that you choose, and not be like Kevin in the article that just after a good looking woman where he was bold himself. So it's a reality check for people, and I remind people, you have, what's most important are the qualities of the people and what they bring to the table. I was saying, look, I understand with looks, there needs to be an attraction in the beginning so that you are interested enough to want to get to know the other person. Okay, so we're saying decent looking, pleasant looking. And I guess in this day and age, I mean, where we can take care of our appearance, there's really no excuse. If you're overweight, you want to improve your appearance, you can lose weight, do the exercise, do the diet, look after your skin, have decent haircuts, dress well, and not be scruffy, so that when you walk around, when you do happen to bump into someone, you are presentable. Okay, it could be a prospective partner that you're bumping into along along the way you're shopping. You never know. Okay, but also, if you are going to expect certain things from a partner, just think of what can you bring to the table. What would make the other person also want you? Because it has to be both ways, not just chasing that person. That person has to want to come as well to be with you. And in a relationship where one person loves the other person more, is never going to be that pleasant for the person that's doing the chasing, the person that's more into the relationship. But I will go into that in a later show. It's not a pleasant situation at all. It's what we all want is both people, both partners, to love each other just as much as the other person. And that's how you can last and form a long-lasting union, which is what this show is all about. As a reminder, if you're just after something casual, you don't need any of this advice. You only need someone good-looking and fun. That's it. Right? It doesn't matter. It's just like, if you need to just buy disposable plates for that barbecue you have on, because it's just a one-time use, you don't care if it's not quite the right color or they're not right, your favorite pattern on there. It serves a purpose. That's it. You don't have to think much about that. Or maybe P. Diddy himself should get disposable plates, considering all the disposable partners and men and women we've heard he's been through. So on that note, this is the end of the show. Let me know what you think by leaving your comments on my Facebook page. You can either check on my Facebook page, Miss Dragonfly, and it'll be there, and just let me know what you think. And if there's anything you'd like me to cover, any topic or area, then feel free to leave your comments there as well. And if I'm able to cover it, then I will cover it in a later show. So that's it for today. I'll be back same time next week. And until then, it's bye for now.